Welcome to the Zen Mind Show with Michelle and Dr. Pat. Rapid Zen transformation. Are you looking for healing processes that require no financial investment? Then this show is your beacon of hope. Hi, I'm Michelle Carboni, a rapid transformational therapist with over 700 hours of training in hypnotherapy, coaching, trauma, and intuition. Together with Dr. Pat, we will be providing the resources and guidance you need to take meaningful steps towards your personal healing and growth. From mindfulness techniques to actionable wisdom, each episode will offer invaluable insights. Join us today as we explore the tools and practices that anyone can do and have access to. Join the Zen revolution. Transform your life today. We are a community dedicated to supporting each other as we strive for a balanced and Zen-filled life. Stay tuned with me and Dr. Pat. The Zen Mind Show starts now.
Wow. I want to welcome you, everyone. I get to take this journey with the most incredible Michelle, the Zen Mind Show, Rapid Zen Transformation. And we're taking on something that we live and breathe, whether you believe it or not. Right, Michelle? We are living and breathing this. Today, Michelle is going to help us do something seriously important. Unveiling shadows. I want to say that again. Unveiling shadows. Some of you say unmasking. I don't care what you call it. Put the un in front of it and then to the word shadows, because this is how you heal through relationship triggers. And we're going to focus on relationships. But right now, you'll see whatever we say today, if we're talking about relationship between people, you can apply it to anything. For example, you may have to unveil the shadows around your bank account. Hello, that's healing through relationship, right, Michelle? It's like, okay, so even if we don't talk, even if we don't say money or we don't say career or job, understand that what, Michelle, you're going to talk about today, it really does relate to those things. But today, there are relationship triggers. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I'd love for you to comment on this. They were talking about, and they didn't really say it quite this way, but at the end of about 45 minutes, I got it. They were talking about what the impact of the past 4 years has been on their relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And they talked about 2 of the 4 years in particular, and how they never, ever envisioned being in a close space with their significant person, their 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a cat. And so over that period of time, they developed things that would then come back last year as triggers. Now, we're going to talk about that and much more. But does that make sense to you that people would be having a few ahas about this right now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Like when you're just, I mean, that's why I think there were so many divorces. You know, we're like, I can be around you for 4 hours a day, but not 24 hours a day, you know? Yeah. So it's definitely, it makes total sense.
I don't believe I'm understating it when I talk about unveiling or unmasking or whatever people want to call it. Unveiling shadows. Let's talk about shadows for a minute, because this is what we're really going to explore. You know, we know what a shadow is. If we're standing out in the sunshine and, you know, right, there's a shadow, right?
Yeah.
Dogs love to chase a flashlight that you're flashing up on the wall, right? Why? Who knows? I don't know. But shadows in this way are so critical in understanding, what am I going to do next, right? They determine whether you're going to go right, you're going to go left, or you don't go at all. I'm simplifying it. But can you give us your view of what shadows are and why is unveiling it so significant now?
Yeah, I think the shadows are really subconscious programs. So it's this little thing behind you going, oh, you're in this situation, so that means you need to do this to stay safe. Or, you know, you need to, you know, turn left, turn right, whatever it is. You know, oh, you're in a relationship and you got left before, so, you know, you need to be worried about being left again. And, you know, it's these abandonment wounds or, you know, all these different wounds that we get from our family of origin and all of that stuff. And so it's just these patterns of behavior that and even patterns of emotions that come up, and we can, they're just driving us, but we don't know that that's what they're doing. We don't realize, like, I was watching Friends, reruns, and when Ross and Rachel and their whole, she starts working at this new job, and there's the guy Mark, and he's like super jealous, and he starts freaking the f out, and I'm just watching this going, oh my gosh, like that's his attachment style shadow coming up because he was left by his first wife because she was gay. And now he's worried that he's going to lose her because she met this guy. And, so it's like those things that, he didn't realize that's what he was doing at first, and it's like, oh, that's why I'm doing this. That's why this is happening. So those shadows are just these little programs of behavior that are chasing us, basically, is kind of how I see them.
Yeah, and they're so important because there can be degrees of how many of these chase us at any given point in time. And that's why you're talking about triggers as well, because I think this is a safe statement. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The number of triggers that you have in any given day probably would reveal the number of shadows that need to be unveiled.
Oh
Because
yeah.
otherwise you just keep repeating them and you just don't want to do that all the time, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And trigger, I mean, there's, I remember a few years ago, there was all these gifts that were trigger warning, we don't want to be triggered. Don't be triggered. And
That's right. I
I'm
remember.
just, they cracked me up, and I'm just like, but we need triggers. Triggers are helpful. Triggers are showing us our shadow. That's the only way we can see it. Unless you go to somebody like me that's a hypnotherapist, you're not going to be able to look in your subconscious super clearly. And so the way it's showing itself is through these triggers and these little actions, and us noticing, oh, I've noticed I keep doing this. Why am I doing that? I make my peanut butter sandwich like this. Why do I do that? Even that can be, it's not really a bad shadow, but like, okay, that's because I was raised this way and that's how it was always done, right?
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
have a program that's how this is done. So it's
yeah.
kind of the same thing.
Well, it's not a bad shadow unless you're in a relationship with somebody who likes creamy peanut butter and you like chunky. And no matter
Right.
what you do, you're going to get creamy when you really want the chunky peanut butter. And what does that turn into? This turns into making a mountain out of a molehill, so to speak. It really starts out as something like that. But when it gets to the point of a trigger, there's so much more underneath it. And
Yeah.
that's why we're doing this. This is a point of self discovery. And so even though we say the word shadow, and we say the word trigger because they're two really, wow, dense. They're dense energies. Even though
Hmm.
we say them, by understanding them, in a lot of ways, they can protect us and save us from certain things. But if we
Sure.
don't understand them,
Yeah. Then they're causing us issues in our relationships, and so like a lot of people that I work with are, have been in traumatic relationships, then now they're out of them, they're starting to date again.
mm,
And that's really the challenge, I think, is like, am I in a healthy relationship? Is this
yeah,
going to turn out like my last one? And then, and that's where your triggers are just like, you're just getting flooded with all these triggers and you don't know what to do. You're like, it's okay. Are these red flags? Do I think that they're red flags because of my last relationship? And these really aren't
yeah.
red flags. And it's like, you can get so confused by the flood of triggers that come in. And then you end up sabotaging a relationship. And even if it is a good one, because
Yeah.
you don't realize what's going on.
I love that we're talking about this because let's just use it. Let's just really get down about what this means in relationships. If you do understand this, Michelle, and people may not understand it. So I want to be very clear. These are the kinds of things you got to go get help with,
Yeah.
really. And that's the work you do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just the tip of the iceberg that shows up. It's the tip of the iceberg, and then you got to figure out what's underneath it. I mean,
Exactly.
many of us have been in long-term relationships. They probably ended badly. And then you start dating again, and you're right. You could be dating somebody really cool. I remember this is a perfect example. You're dating somebody really cool. Uh, it- all of the issues you had in your past relationship, you've checked them off the list, and you've said, "Oh, wait, this person's okay. They've got a job. Oh, wait, they don't just have a job. They own every massage franchise in the United States and beyond. Okay, so they're okay. But then you go on, and for some strange reason, you end up pulling away because they say the word, I love this. It's all over the Hallmark Channel, by the way. I really want something more. Oh, oh,
Ah!
uh, just been there, done that. But you see, these are the things that if you don't have the tools, you could really be walking away from something that you could be very happy in. And boy, there are a lot of people that do that. How do you help them get through that? I mean, I just gave you the big C word, which is commitment.
Yeah. And I struggle with that myself, right? Yeah, it's interesting, so I guide my clients through a lot of different processes. So we'll talk about the situation, like, okay, what was happening? And then maybe what I like to do is ask questions to try to get them to see it from another angle. Like, because our ego is going to just fill in, and that's really a shadow too, right? And that's where the shadows live, in our egos. So it's like it's going to feed us all these thoughts, and oh, well, they said this and that means blah blah blah, and you just start creating all these stories, and it just gets expanded out, and it's all BS. It's not true. Like, none of it's true. Like, if you talk to your partner, it's like, okay, I can just make this work. I can tell you I'm feeling like this. So, like, I'll use an example from my recent life. Like, I've gotten triggered in my relationship, and my boyfriend's amazing and I love him so much. And I can go to him and be like, okay, this happened. It wasn't anybody's fault, but this is what happened and this is how it made me feel. And I know this is a trigger. I know this is my ego talking to me. And how can we work through it? And being in a healthy relationship means you can have that conversation and say, hey, when this happened, it triggered me, and this is why. And how can we keep this from happening again? And, build us a better relationship and have better communication always. Right. And so, working with my clients is like getting them to see, okay,
Mhm.
maybe this is a different angle. Maybe we can look at this a different way. Like, when this happened, was it a story you were telling yourself, or was it the truth?
Yeah.
And usually it's a story. So let's find out the truth. You have to talk to your partner. And so many of
Mhm.
us are scared to talk to our partners because our last partners would, verbally abuse us or whatever. And so, we're not used to having communication. So even just getting through and, okay, I need to talk to you. And like,
Yeah.
having a conversation can be challenging. So it's like giving my clients the courage to have a
Yeah.
conversation, right? Is like part of it too.
You have to do that. And, I love that you brought it up because conflict and communication, these are the two C's of understanding how to end up in war or how to end up in peace. And I'm not talking between another person, I'm talking within yourself.
Yeah.
Because if these two things you don't learn, conflict and conflict type driven communication, definitely you keep that within you, especially if you don't have a conversation. I mean, even having a conversation about, well, what does that actually mean for you? Tell me a little bit about more. What does the more mean for you? And
Right.
being able
Yes.
to have a conversation and say, so you don't even ask the question. You're like, okay, cross you off my list. Let's move on. And, that is not always a solution because I got to tell you about this, right? Tell me if this is true. That little issue there, that is going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
So why not practice?
Yeah. Right. Like, yeah. And just getting to a place where you're comfortable having difficult conversations is so important, because if you can't talk to your partner about
Mhm.
something challenging, like, well, how are you handling that in the rest
Yeah,
of your life? Like, with people that you don't know very well and that
yeah,
you may not trust, you're not communicating at all. So maybe none of your needs are getting met. Maybe you're letting people walk all over you and you're just
yeah.
being a people pleaser and a doormat. And like, who wants to live like that? That's not a happy life.
No. And I had a friend say to me, and I hope you talked to this. I had a mentor, I think it was, oh yeah, I had a boss who would say to me, Pat, here's the deal. You want to know about change? Of course, none of us did, but he was going to tell us anyway. He said, this is the way change works. You're going to change when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. That's when you're going to change. And he'd say that, and we'd have to do the math on that. Like, what did he just say? The pain of staying the same. So when you go through relationships and the pain of what you just didn't do or didn't learn how to work through, when that pain gets so serious, even more than the abusive situations you're in, you will get help. And I want to say to people, don't do that. Get help now.
Yeah.
Don't we know when triggers are showing up. We know when the minute somebody says, I really enjoyed this, but I really want more. And we feel ourselves wanting to throw up. That's when you call them a show. And
Right.
don't wait till you actually throw up. Just pick up the phone because you've seen this. You can work with people through this, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we create new new neural pathways, but we create new routines and new habits. So it's like in your relationship, maybe you start this habit of once a week we sit down and we say, hey, how's our relationship going? How are you feeling? Have you had any challenges with something I did this week? Have I had any challenges with you? And like creating a habit of open communication, even if everything's great. Well, let's talk about how great it is, right? Like,
You have to do that. Look, there are those of us. This has been a life journey for me and many people. But what you're here to do because of your own experience is help people understand that these triggers are the gateways. They're not only the gateways to our greatest fears, but the greatest opportunities. And I don't know. It's like every superhero movie you ever watch, they get a trigger, they get an obstacle. And
right?
the moral of the story, they get through it, right?
Oh yeah.
But we have to really get help sometimes. And it's just like anything you watch now, anything where somebody falls down and gets up, they have help. Isn't that what you're saying? People don't have to do this alone. I don't know about you, but I have not been able to get through these kinds of things by myself. I
Yeah,
just
I mean, and even as a coach and a hypnotherapist, I have someone help me because
oh
our shadows are hidden from us. And that's why we need other people to go, well, hey, this is what I'm noticing because the angle's different and, the perceptions are different and you can look
Mhm.
at it from a different way. And then you can give that other person another perspective and they can go, oh, wait, yeah, you're
Mhm.
right. This is about the way my father treated me and not really about my partner. Just a similar situation happened in some way that triggered me. And I became a 7-year-old again. And my 7-year-old self is just so insecure. But adult me is pretty secure. Like, why, so it's like working with these little parts of ourselves
Yeah.
too and figuring that out. And then it creates a better dynamic in your relationship and it builds intimacy in your relationship, which we all crave and need.
Mm. Yeah, the other thing I want to know also is how do people work with you? Because part of this, it does require us to look back in our lives, and it really does require working with somebody in a safe space. If there's any message that I want to say to people right now, is when you're looking at Michelle and you're looking at what Michelle does, you're looking at somebody that, first of all, is esteemed in her profession and knows how to do this and do it well. And you're also working with somebody that has been through this. So safety, I know, is uber important for you. I know that
Oh,
because I've
yeah.
heard your story. And that's part of it. Sometimes we go down a pathway and we get help and we don't really assess the situation. But you're offering people a bit about your process, how to go through it. And also, you can see people's vulnerability because you've been there. Can you talk about how you help others work through this in your own practice? And let's not forget, please give out your website.
Oh, yeah. So my website is zenmindmichelle.com and Michelle's with 2 L's. And I also have a retreat coming up in November, November 1st through the
Yay.
6th. I'm so excited. It's in Mexico at my girlfriend's retreat. And it's called Transforming Cassandra because, of course, my clientele is geared towards Cassandra syndrome and
Yeah.
ongoing traumatic relationship syndrome. So it's geared for that clientele. It's all going to be women only retreat.
Mhm.
But Yeah. So when we work together, we're going to work subconsciously with hypnosis and RTT specifically, what I practice, and working with those parts of ourselves, talking to them. What are you doing? Why are you here? Are you here to punish me? Are you here to protect me? What's going on? And get rid of those parts or transform them. But also through coaching and working through, I had a date last night and this is what happened. And okay, well, what came up for you? What were you feeling? And, my job isn't to tell someone what to do, but is to ask them the right question, to get them to think
Yeah.
and see what's happening in their own self and to feel their own feelings and acknowledge them.
Let's talk about the end game. I don't think we talk about that enough. I mean, there's an end game that you help people get to. That's why I think you do it. That's why I do what I do. I mean, every time I'm asked, Pat, geez, you still doing this? What do you do? What? You're growing, you're expanding. What is wrong with you? I mean, I get it. This is the way my friends talk to me.
Yeah.
But in your case, there's a purpose and a passion behind who you are because you've been on the other side of this. But there
Yeah.
is an end game that we hold in sacred space for people. Isn't that end game to really help people move beyond the trigger, see the trigger differently, but then walk into a life which they love?
Yes.
See,
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
this why we are doing this?
Oh, yeah, totally. And to help them create and even know what they want in life and find that spark and find joy and
Yeah.
happiness and love, because we're here to love, I believe. So, let's love each other. Let's have a great time together and just live and experience things and feel things. And so I see my triggers even when I'm in a ball on the floor crying,
Yeah.
as like I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm doing so great. I'm feeling my feelings. This is fantastic. But like I give myself props because I'm like, okay, I'm finally feeling my feelings. This is good, even though it sucks. It's
But you
fine.
have to do it. I
Yeah.
mean, it just triggers show up in weird times. I was playing the sport that I play, and my partner hit me with his bat and hit me in my hand. And
Oof.
if you play a sport like I play, your hands, you need your hands, but hit me in my hand right across my knuckle. And it was really, really hard. Now I had to pick myself up and erase the trigger because what's the trigger? Holy crap, you're never going to be able to play again. He's just ruined your hand. Okay, no, that's not what happened. But that's what came up. And what you're helping people with, if you have a situation that may sound silly to a lot of you, but how many times in your day does your boss look at you side eyes? And that reflects a trigger of an abusive partner. This is your boss, but they just give you that look. And all of a sudden now your boss is your ex. But
Yeah.
these are the things that people can get help from. Now,
Exactly.
clearly, I don't know if my friend was able to help her little relationship there after the COVID experience. She didn't get help though.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes relationships, you need help to figure out that it's not the right relationship too. So it's you know, it's a matter of figuring out what you want and what's healthy for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And coming to the realization your husband and your children never wash their dishes. So it's not a result of COVID. It's just that you got them all in the same place and the dishes now are over. I mean,
Yeah.
there are just some things, if we could learn what you teach people and help people with, you could enter the world of possibilities and moving beyond the shadow, right, Michelle?
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
The work you do is so important. There's so many people. I mean, we could do a whole show on the degree of depression for women, the degree of anxiety. We could do a whole show on that.
Oh yeah.
And, these are only the women that are coming forward and able to speak. So many women are not. So many women, for example, women that are immigrants here, they cannot have a voice. Their lives are just horrible. But
Yeah.
you're helping people. All people need to do is call you. Is that correct?
Yep, just set up a discovery call. My website is perfect, and that's just zenmindmichelle.com. Easy peasy.
Send mine, Michelle. Michelle, one last question. Personal message. What do you want to leave us with? And by the way, please tell us the website, how to sign up for the retreat.
Oh yeah, yeah. The website for the retreat, it's on my website. Just same zenmindmichelle.com, and there's a little thing on the front. And Yeah, I just would say, using mindfulness and like noticing triggers and noticing what's going on with yourself is a big key to helping you
Hmm.
heal. So, start with a mindfulness practice of some sort and
Hmm.
start noticing your thoughts, noticing when you get triggered, even if it's later, go, oh, I was triggered. Why was I triggered? And start digging. And, you can make some progress by yourself, but you're probably going to need help. So,
Exactly.
reach out if you need help. And there's so many great resources that we use and can really create a better life for yourself.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for everything. Don't forget to look up the retreat. And as Michelle said, you can make progress by yourself. But I mean, these are the kinds of things you really want to make progress for good. You want to take care of whatever that underlying issue is for good. Thank you, Michelle. Thank
Thank
you,
you so
thank you, thank
much.
you. Thank you all. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Michelle Carboni, a rapid transformational therapist with over 700 hours of training in hypnotherapy, intuition, and coaching. My passion lies in helping you heal yourself. I use hypnotherapy and coaching to help clients healing the inner child to create a fantastic future with intention. Join the Zen Revolution. Transform your life today. It's a community dedicated to supporting each other as we all strive for a more fulfilling, balanced, and Zen-filled life. For more information, visit www.zenmindmichelle.com.